will be summoned in connection with a probe of excessive use of force on the Gen Z protesters, an appearance that Oli has said he will not make. Details up ahead, but first let's talk about Iran. Iran is at a crossroads as economic despair combines with political defiance. The younger generation of Iran is angry, and now they are challenging the old guard. The streets of Iran have now become battle zones, with the demonstrations reaching Qom, which is a stronghold of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. As death to the dictator chants fill Iran's air, these protests are swinging between bread and jobs to freedom and legitimacy. And therefore, the stakes are higher and more threatening to the supreme authority. Until now, protests have spread to 32 cities, including Tehran, Isfahan, Shiraz, Karaj and Fasa. At least 7 people have been killed in the clashes between the protesters and security forces. Nearly 33 persons have been injured, whereas 119 protesters have been arrested. For millions of Iranians, life has become unaffordable. The rial has plunged to historic lows, wiping out savings almost overnight. Prices of food, fuel, and basic necessities have all surged. Shopkeepers are shutting their businesses, and ordinary citizens are asking a question they have asked many times in the past. How much longer can this go on? President Masoud Pezeshkian, while taking a conciliatory approach, has acknowledged the public's economic suffering. In fact, he has accepted that it is the government's fault in not doing enough for the economy.
People are dissatisfied. We are at fault. You are at fault. Do not go after America as the one to blame. Do not go after, I don't know, some other person to blame. It is we who must serve, and they must be satisfied with us. It is we who must properly manage our resources. It is we who must find a way and solve the problem. It is we who must make the effort and find solutions to these problems for them.
Now, with this turmoil, Iran's exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has been weighing in on the protests and extending his support. In a series of posts on X, Pahlavi said, and I quote, "Salute for standing courageously across Iran. You are making history. Those who have been killed by this regime over the past 2 days are true heroes of this land. Stay united, stay focused on the goal. Victory will be ours." Unquote. So who is Reza Pahlavi? Born in Tehran on the October 31st, 1960, as the heir to the late Mohammad Reza Shah and Empress Farah Pahlavi, he was officially named Crown Prince in 1967. At the age of 17, he left Iran for jet fighter training in the United States Air Force. In 1979, his father was deposed by the Islamic Revolution, and Reza Pahlavi could never return to Iran from United States. He was forced to live in exile. He married Yasmin Etmad Amini on 12th June 1986, and they have 3 daughters, Noor, Iman and Farah. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has warned that American forces are locked, loaded and ready to go if the need arises. He said, and I quote, "If Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue." Remember, the memory of the 2022 protests looms large. Then, the death of Mahsa Amini in morality police custody had sparked nationwide protests that challenged the regime's authority. Although that movement was violently suppressed, it changed Iran's political psychology. The fear of challenging the supreme leader was broken. In 2022, protests were quelled violently. In 2025 and 26, Iran's leadership once again faces a difficult choice: reform meaningfully or rule by force. The third option that many are giving is make the supreme leader step down. But will that happen? That's a question that everybody is wondering about. All right, let's get a perspective on what has been happening in Iran. I'm joined by Mr. Burzin Wagmar from London. He's an expert on Iran and he's affiliated with the Center for Iranian Studies at SOAS at the University of London. Burzin Wagmar, good evening. Welcome to WION. I want to start by understanding from you how you see these ongoing protests. Do you see them as having the potential of what many are saying would get in a regime change in Iran and would make the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, step down?
It's a bit too early to tell because information is fragmentary, but this news cycle has taken a vociferous turn in more ways than one, in that it's not just about the Gen Z who are discontent and calling for social pressures to be relaxed by a clerical patriarchal autocracy. It comes down to bare bread and butter issues, as a currency has become practically worthless when it takes 1.42 million riyals to $1 Shreya, inflation at 42.2%, and a country which is a gas and oil exporting regime is reduced to rationing petrol at home. Irony of ironies. And then there are a slew of other issues, including droughts, water shortages, climate change, and mismanagement overall, and endemic corruption within these public sector boneyards or foundations that have stifled the economy in more ways than one. Shifting blame and saying sanctions have aggravated the life of ordinary Iranians, as many in the West, including liberal circles, have said that it doesn't affect the regime but only hits ordinary Persians hardest, isn't exactly true. It is superfluous as an argument because these problems are squarely attributable to mismanagement at home, and it took someone like President Pezeshkian to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Quite rare to go in public office to state so, instead of the usual modus operandi of deflecting problems to an evil West, imperialists out to unravel the revolution and its gains since 1979, and Israel out to dismantle the regime. These arguments are wearing thin. And Supreme National Security Council leader Ali Larijani, who fired this salvo, 2 points on that, Shreya, before I go over to you. He fired this salvo in response to President Trump.
Yes.
He fired it on Twitter, which is banned in Iran since 2009, except for the select chosen few who have access to it by bypassing VPN access and other white SIM cards and that sort of thing. But the irony is Twitter is not available to Iranians, but to those of the regime. And Ali Larijani's daughter is comfortably ensconced in the US. His brother, Bakir Larijani, holds Canadian dual citizenship, and he has other relatives up and down in the EU holding passports and residencies there.
So, Burzeen, while you tell us about the kind of double standards that the Iranian leadership at the moment is displaying, there is, of course, an understandable concern among the Gen Z, among the youngsters of Iran, about the state of economy. And one of the alternatives that they are giving to this as a solution is getting back the exiled Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi. How much of that do you think would work? Is he a popular leader there in Iran?
Can I just answer something because you brought up an important point in your line of query?
Yes.
It's not just Gen Z, Shreya.
Yes.
It is also the middle Shia pious middle classes and the Bazaris, as they're known, who have traditionally been supporters of the Islamic regime since 1979, and the ones who had joined the protests against Reza Pahlavi's father, the last Shah, which toppled him in Jan 79. The regime, the clerics, depend for finance and other patronage networks on the traditional Bazari merchant middle class of Shias.
Yes.
So it's not just the Gen Z, it is this class. The bazaar went on what you would call in India an immediate hartal or strike on Sunday last, when the currency plunged through the floor. They were the ones who called for an immediate strike and closed shops down. And then, of course, the Gen Z have picked up on it because they are discontent in more ways than one. So the regime has lost credibility even among those whom it could bank upon earlier. So I wanted to place that as a qualifier. To come to your question of support for the royalists, that is more pronounced in the diaspora, obviously because of those who had to flee, Iran's best and brightest who left in 79 and the brain drain that took place. But also within the present-day Islamic Republic, 40 plus years on, there is some groundswell to see him as a leader around whom they could coalesce in a post-revolution scenario. But there are also other options of who would call for a more inclusive nationalist republic, which is not run on Islamist lines. But there is some groundswell for him, but it's not entirely lawless too. But the irony is that there is calls for him to return, considering that his father was ousted and the Pahlavi regime was dismantled.
Yeah. Quickly, before I let you go, Burzine, one last question about how Donald Trump has weighed in on these entire protests. He said that the American forces are ready to, they're ready, locked, loaded, and ready to go, is what his words are. How much of that resonates within the Iranian protesters, considering that the leadership has said that this is an internal matter of the country and US shouldn't be intervening?
It provides some psychological succor to those who feel that they're not forgotten by the world. That is important to be something patently important. You may call out President Trump's daring do and bravado with this and all other sorts of tweets, but at least it provides some moral support, considering that no other Western leader has said it. And the reason for that is, Shreya, because the Iranians fall back on this consistent conspiratorial modus operandi that the West is out to dismantle the regime, which is why most Western capitals stay mum about it. Otherwise, they are tarnished as, interfering in Iran's affairs. And Iran has always capitalized on that. And there is something also to be said about Western liberals who don't look upon Iran as a worthy cause, but are just fixated on Palestine and Gaza, because, of course, the framing of the issue becomes difficult for these leftists, since Muslims are the victims here primarily, who are being victimized by Muslims, and that somehow unravels their shibboleths that they tend to hold about anti-imperialism and the rest.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Burzine Bagmar, thank you very much for joining us on WION and sharing your perspective. Let's wait and watch how the next few days and weeks unfold in the country of Iran. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's shift our focus now to United States of America, where Zohran Mamdani has promised a new era for New York City after being sworn in, outlining his vision for change as he begins his term as mayor. During his swearing-in ceremony, Mamdani placed his hand on the Quran, Islam's holiest book, becoming the first mayor in New York City to do so. He used a total of 3 Qurans for the oath-taking. One belonged to his grandfather, while another one belonged to Arturo Schomburg, the black writer and historian, and was lent to him by the New York Public Library. For a separate public ceremony at the City Hall, Zohran Mamdani used his grandfather's Quran, along with the one owned by his grandmother. New York City's first Muslim mayor has vowed to pursue an aggressive agenda aimed at making the largest city of US more affordable for working people, emphasizing universal childcare, affordable rents, and free bus service. He said that his administration will be accountable to all New Yorkers, not wealthy donors, as he pledged to govern according to democratic socialist principles.
New Yorkers. And it will be New Yorkers who reform a long broken property tax system. New Yorkers who will create a new Department of Community Safety that will tackle the mental health crisis and let the police focus on the job they signed up to do. New Yorkers who will take on the bad landlords who mistreat their tenants and free small business owners from the shackles of bloated bureaucracy. And I am proud to be one of those New Yorkers.
He also stated that the nation will be watching closely to see whether his left-leaning approach to governing can succeed in addressing the challenges facing Americans, adding that they will set an example for the world.
I cannot blame anyone who has come to question the role of government, whose faith in democracy has been eroded by decades of apathy. We will restore that trust by walking a different path. One where government is no longer solely the final recourse for those struggling. One where excellence is no longer the exception.
Born in Uganda to a family of Indian origin, the 34-year-old democratic socialist moved to New York at the age of 7. He campaigned heavily on cost of living issues and was sharply critical of Republican President Donald Trump, rising rapidly from relative anonymity just a year ago. During the mayoral race, Trump threatened to withhold federal funding from the city if Mamdani won and suggested deploying National Guard troops as well. However, the president later surprised both supporters and critics by inviting Mamdani to the White House for what became a cordial meeting in November last year. And let me go across to our correspondent Susan Teherani. She's joining us live from New York. Susan, now that the inauguration has been done, New Yorkers are happy that they've got their first Muslim mayor, all the right kind of promises that have been made, all the right kind of symbolism that the inauguration ceremony saw. Now, of course, the sentiment shifts to what he can do. And Zohran Mamdani has been a clever politician in realizing and in fact speaking about it during his speech as well, that he realizes why his governance will be questioned. So help us understand the sentiment among New Yorkers. How are they seeing him? What do they expect of him now?
So there are some New Yorkers that are happy. He was elected. There are 50% of New Yorkers that didn't vote for him, or a little less, because he did ultimately win. And those are the New Yorkers who are concerned about how not only his policies are going to translate into the lives of everyday New Yorkers, but also how Albany and state legislators are going to be working with him to try to make these policies work. At the end of the day, his slogans are only as good as the legislation in Albany, and the state has to support him for him to be able to pass these laws. But his supporters, you're absolutely right, are very happy. I was there at the inauguration yesterday, and even to get to the outside of the inauguration of City Hall, the so-called block party, people were standing in line in the winter cold for 10, 12 blocks, just trying to get a glimpse and be part of this change that he's bringing, because they believe that they've just simply been left behind and something has to give in New York, and the status quo is just not feasible. He did pass 3 executive orders immediately. He nullified all of the executive orders passed by former mayor, and also he put some tenant protections, and he also passed another executive order, again, that's related to housing. But then there are those skeptics that believe that his policies are going to scare off the business community here in New York, the capital of finance, really, and also landlords as well. So, all New Yorkers, whether they supported him or not, they sort of have this let's wait and see approach to Zohran Mamdani. He's been able to really garner support and rally a sense of enthusiasm, notably among younger New Yorkers with his speech. But as you mentioned, how those words are going to translate into policy, well, we'll have to wait and see. But I think everyone wants this to work for New York, and I think that's very important.
Absolutely, Susan. One of the statements that Zohran Mamdani said during his speech in Hindi and Urdu, it means winning hearts. He said, Dil jeet liye. I hope he's able to win the rest of the hearts that he hasn't been able to. Let's wait and watch how Mamdani fares as the mayor. Thank you very much, Susan, for joining us. All right, shifting our focus to Nepal now. A commission appointed by Nepal's interim government is all set to summon ousted Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli for clarification over the alleged excessive use of force during the Gen Z protests in September last year. The violent protests that rocked Nepal on the 8th and 9th of September resulted in the deaths of at least 77 people nationwide. According to reports, at least 19 youths who were demonstrating against the Oli government were killed in police firing in Kathmandu. The widespread unrest resulted in the fall of the government and Oli's ouster. Human Rights Watch and other bodies have alleged that security forces used disproportionate and unlawful force, including firing live ammunition at the protesters. The 3-member panel was constituted through a cabinet decision on the 21st of September last year. The commission, led by Gauri Bahadur Karki, aims to submit its final report by the 21st of January. Speaking with the media, she told reporters that preparations were underway to seek clarification from CPN-UML chairperson and former Prime Minister Oli after the process of recording the statement of the then Home Minister, Ramesh Lekhak, is completed. KP Sharma Oli, meanwhile, has publicly stated that he will not appear before the inquiry commission, questioning its legitimacy and impartiality. Well, moving on to updates from India, dispute over banners between BJP and Congress workers escalated into bloodshed in the Indian state of Karnataka in the early hours of Thursday. This incident took place ahead of the inauguration of a Valmiki statue on the 3rd of January. Trouble arose when Congress workers tried to install banners near the residence of Bharatiya Janata Party MLA G. Janardhan Reddy in Ballari. After his supporters objected to the same, stone pelting and gunfire followed. A Congress member, Rajashekhar, lost his life in this violence. He was struck by a bullet. Police personnel were also targeted with stones. They had to resort to a lathi charge and tear gas to disperse the mob. In his first reaction, BJP's Janardhan Reddy claimed that the gunmen linked to local Congress MLA Nara Bharat Reddy's associate tried to assassinate him as he approached his residence. However, Nara Bharat Reddy demanded the arrest of the BJP MLA, citing that the opposition party was trying to prevent the statue inauguration program from going ahead. Meanwhile, the Karnataka government has ordered an inquiry into this matter. The state's chief minister, Siddaramaiah, stressed that it was necessary to find out how the violence started and who fired the bullet. An FIR has been filed at the local police station. 11 people, including Janardhan Reddy, his brother, Somashekhar Reddy, and former minister, B. Sri Ramulu, they all have been booked under charges such as attempt to murder and punishment for rioting. Meanwhile, commenting on this case, senior police official R. Hitendra revealed that the guns of 5 individuals have been seized. They will now be sent to the forensic to identify the gun whose bullet led to the death of the Congress worker. And our next story is from the Indian state of Uttarakhand. A state government minister's husband has sparked outrage because of his crude remarks about women. This is Girdhari Lal Sahu. He is the husband of Uttarakhand minister Rekha Arya. Arya has been representing Uttarakhand's Someshwar Assembly constituency since 2014. She is a member of the Bharatiya Janata Party and she has been the state's woman and child welfare minister since March 2017. Despite almost 9 years of looking after the welfare of women, Rekha Arya's own husband said this.
पार्टी की एक सिस्टम है कि संगठन हमारा सर्वोपरि, लेकिन मैं निवेदन करूंगा कि राहुल जैसे 5 लड़के हैं, जिसमें अशोक जलाल भी है, जिसमें नवीन तुम कितनी उम्र के बेटा हैं? तो नौजवान ही हो, शादी भी नहीं हुई तुम्हारी, हाँ तो नौजवान है। ऐसे 5 लोग इकट्ठे करके तो बेटा शादी बुढ़ापे में करोगे। हम लोग 3-4 बच्चे हो जाते हैं। लड़की हम तुम्हें दिवाली बिहार से ले आएंगे, बिहार में 20-25 हजार रुपए मिल जाती है। हाँ, चलिए तुम मेरे साथ, हम तुम्हारी शादी करा।
That derogatory comment has sparked outrage. Protests have been organized by Uttarakhand's main opposition party, the Indian National Congress, across the state. The Congress has condemned Sahu's remark and demanded a public apology from both Sahu as well as Rekha Arya. Sahu has accused the Congress of trying to leverage the issue for political gains, yet he also issued an apology for his crude remarks. Remember, Uttarakhand goes to polls in early 2027, and reports say Arya is preparing to contest from the Someshwar constituency again. Her husband, Girdhari Lal Sahu, made his crass remarks during a party workers' meeting to plan for the next year's elections. And with that, it's time to wrap Race to Power Up. But of course, news and updates will continue on WION. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building, coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From Avengers Doomsday to Ramayana Part 1, know all about the big budget releases of 2026.
It's your boy Flipperachi from Outlaw Productions.
Meet Bahraini rapper Flipperachi as he talks about fast love. And find out why India is emerging as the world's go-to concert hub. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, world is one.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building, coming soon to challenge perceptions in RS's centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, world is one.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. The Ukrainian army says that it only hit military targets a day after Russia accused Kiev of firing drones at a hotel and a cafe in Ukraine's occupied south, killing 27 people. The American President Donald Trump has said that if Iran shoots and violently kills the peaceful protesters, then the United States will come to their rescue. Now, Iran has hit back and has said that the United States should not meddle into Iran's internal affairs. Now, fresh airstrikes hit Yemen's airport and the military base. This is the Saudi-backed forces launched an operation Take Back military sites after a sweeping advance by the Emirati-supported separatists that has raised fears of a major confrontation. And Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro extends an olive branch to the United States. President Donald Trump proposes some serious talks on combating drug trafficking and offering the US companies that are ready access to Venezuelan oil. And China commissions a new type of 052D guided missile destroyer Hull 176 in the beginning of 2026.